Hey, welcome everybody. This is back to Play Casket. We are on episode 8 on Promising Indies with your hosts Paraka the Goblin
Ghost, your co-host.
and as I said, we are going to be talking about Promising Indies today. We're just going to be, just stuff that we're going to probably gush about, stuff that we think is pretty cool, some of the stuff that why we think those companies are cool, and we're going to talk more about like the companies themselves this time. And what makes a indie, we're just gonna put just a small ground rule. What basically is, if you can fund your own development and publish your own game, roughly that's an indie. There's some gray area where some can publish another company's game once and then like they're done. That's an agreement, but that's kind of a weird gray area. I'll probably not touch on too much this time, but I think just the basic. If it's developed and published by the same company, it kind of works and falls into that line. And I'll go ahead and let the Ghost kind of talk about one of his first games.
Yeah, okay. So the first one I do want to talk about is Enter the Gungeon by Dodge Roll. The first time I ever heard about it was on the Co-optional podcast, and they were just talking about either indies that they saw, or it was probably like a slow AAA release, and Enter the Gungeon came up. So it's basically like a twin stick shooter, and you got to make sure that you get the right weapon for your first run. Otherwise, it screws up your run. But it looks, it's like a roguelike where everything just kind of randomizes. I think the bosses are all the same, but
No, I actually played the game a little bit. The bosses have a very small range of who it's going to be based on the floor you're on. So
Okay.
you'll run into a certain subset for each level and eventually get to the last boss, which is always final.
Okay.
But yeah, it is a roguelike. It's you pick your archetypes. You don't which will start with their own subset of guns, and then whatever guns that might pop up throughout your run kind of dictates what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So there's been some interesting ones that were really overpowered when I first ran it too. But there's some other ones that are just like, I had this laser beam one. It was supposed to like one shot kill so many things, but it was so narrow.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't fucking kill anything. Like I just couldn't. It's a nice game for me. Like I'm not too into too many roguelikes.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the only ones that I really do enjoy is Dead Cells.
Mm-hmm.
And there was another one that just recently came out that I was like really excited about. And we're gonna be talking about that in a little bit too. So I'll save up. I'll touch on that later. But that's definitely roguelikes as a genre isn't something I like too much unless there's some kind of sense of like moderate progression that permanently adds something to you.
Yeah. Well, the thing I like about roguelikes is that it's a formula you can't really mess up on, especially when it comes to indies. So it's like something familiar you could kind of touch up on without having to be truly invested in the story. You could just pick it up and like, okay, let's play.
I heard once one dude described it once as a arcades revisited.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of makes sense a little bit, because when you die, it's over.
Yeah.
You have to start over again. You can't save from a certain point and stuff like that. You die, you start over. And I feel like that's kind of there's that formula in that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I get it, and it's like so hard that if it was an arcade system, they would probably be chugging quarters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I see where he's coming from with that.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean I'm gonna like a lot of what people do with it. Like,
Okay.
oh, another one. I'm just gonna side note on it. Flint Hook was actually another roguelike I actually enjoyed. Flint Hook's a really good one too. I don't know why I enjoy that one as much, but it does kick my ass a lot. But it's enjoyable. I actually really like the weird character enemy designs and stuff too.
Don't you get does the progress carry over though if you die and then?
Roughly, there's certain items that carry over. Then you use those as a currency to boost your character's abilities, which makes it easier to progress.
Okay.
It's a lot like Dead Cells and that type of theme and stuff. But Dead Cells is a little bit more streamlined in the currency. Basically,
Yeah, okay.
You have gold, you have souls. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like mana if you have something weird. But other than that, that's it. But the other roguelike a lot of people are aware of is actually from another indie that I think is really cool, right? And I think because of this game, it's Hades, by the way. I'm sure everyone knows that.
It is the best.
It's actually like Supergiant Games is who developed it. A lot of people know because of Hades is like just big everywhere, right? Everyone's fallen in love with it, which is really cool. Like for Supergiant, but I actually liked them way back when they made Bastion. Like, I'm not trying to be like a hipster and like I liked them before they were cool. I'm glad that they're like becoming more of a spotlight. So this isn't like, oh, this is a hidden indie and you never known that.
I'm surprised Hades won Best Indie of the Year, right, for 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Dead Cells won last year's too, and they're both very well deserved for what they are.
Okay.
But I do think it might put. I think that's gonna put them on the on the in the limelight and stuff. But Supergiant Games, like how I actually discovered them was actually Dorkly did a little like meme video of the narrator narrating other video games, and like the narrator in Bastion is like really raspy and stuff, and then like he does these like weird pseudo philosophy like narration quips every now and again.
You're driving the road right now. You look to your left and your right, and then you turn on.
Don't know where you're going, but all you can do is move forward. That's all we can ever do. Like that stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like that is something like I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead and see what this game's about because I actually thought that whole humor was tied to Bastion, and it wasn't. So I was kind of a little bit let down because I thought it was going to be a little bit more quirkier, but it wasn't. But the game was actually amazing. It was phenomenal for me.
Okay.
I really like. I'm like not trying to be a hipster on it. I liked Bastion more because I feel like it was one of those games that out of the theme of nostalgia, like it made me understand and appreciate Supergiant Games.
Okay.
Transistor wasn't really that much of a fun game for me.
Mm-hmm.
Hades was great. I enjoyed Hades. The only one I'd never played from them is Pyre, and I'm still waiting for that port onto Switch because I am nowhere near my computer as often as I would like anymore.
No, okay.
But for the most part, yeah, Supergiant Games is definitely one of those companies that I'd say keep an eye out on because I think because of Hades being so popular, you're gonna see some stuff. Like I think I'm hearing that they're gonna be doing some more. DLC, something like some kind of boss rush mode and stuff like that if it's not already there. And they're apparently already hard at work on the next game, so we'll see what's going on.
Okay.
So,
damn. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that I like about Supergiant Games is Hades as well. So I seen Bastion and Transistor, but I know like they're on my list. But, I bought them. They're on sale. And kind of let them sit in the back. But as soon as I saw Hades on the YouTube algorithm, or their ad, I'm like, oh, thank God, it finally worked. I got nothing but college and alcohol commercials. I'm like, oh, thank God, I get a commercial that I actually want to buy.
Which are synonymous with one another, let's say that.
But just seeing it, though, makes me, like, as soon as I saw the commercial, I'm like, okay, I want this game. And... the voice acting was really good to begin with, and then I had a chance to play is it the pre-alpha, right? Not the beta, but like the pre-alpha,
the open alpha and stuff like
basically,
that.
Yeah. So I had a chance to buy that when it finally came to Steam, and oh man, it's such a good. Like all the characters are really really cool. The gameplay is really.
I really
nice.
do like the style of the characters. I really do. Like the only one that kind of throws me through a loop is like. For some reason, Aphrodite, and I understand that she's supposed to be the goddess of love, so she's nude, and she's portrayed nude in a lot of Greek mythology and stuff too. I feel like her art's a little off. I'm not sure what it is. Like, it feels like somebody just was like, had to, like, they hired the artist, he did all what he was going to do, and as he was on his way out, they're like, wait, you missed one, and they had to, like, rush it together. Like, I don't know. It feels weird a little bit, but for the most part, I like a lot of Dionysus's powers. Like, that stuff, mixing Dionysus with War's powers is probably the most humorous stuff that I've done. Like stuff that just makes people drunk, which is basically a poison in the game, and just overall just superpower, and you can just punish people that have like adverse effects on them. So constantly poisoning them and then punishing them for being poisoned. It's the perfect suburban broken family right there. You're the reason I'm punching mom. Sorry, Dad. But
Dang.
no, like that's
Yeah, I got to pick it up since like the last couple of updates. I'm like, I can't remember what my favorite layout is or my favorite character
the characters.
or my favorite god that I usually use. Yeah.
I like the mechanics on those two, but my favorite one is one that I can't say because it kind of spoils the game, so
Okay.
I'm not going to touch on it.
Okay.
But people know about him, or it, depending on how you perceive this god.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just going to leave it at that. It's a really cool design. It kind of catches you off guard once you're done with it a little bit, and then you'll see why it's cool.
And Dusa is the best waifu ever. Can we get a plushie of her? Oh my god, I love her so much. just a snake head that's like
Get a
cute
Build-A-Bear
and awkward.
that has a little like clicker that you can just click on one of the things and it just says all the jitteriness.
Yeah, she is the best. I want a plushie or something. I don't know.
But she doesn't have a body.
So right.
Yeah, no, Hades was actually not a bad game, but for me, it was Bastion. It was definitely Bastion.
Okay.
I do like a lot of the action RPGs like Hades. One of the other ones actually, because I'm saying about it's actually going to segue into this, is actually a company called Thunder Lotus Games.
Mm-hmm.
They're more known for Spiritfarer. I'm not sure if you heard about that game.
I've never heard of it.
Basically, you're carrying a lot of like anthropomorphic. It's a furry paradise, I swear. Anthropomorphic like characters that you kind of like get in touch with and kind of like get to know. It's kind of an emotional type game, so everybody like loves it. It's very like fully animated. It's gorgeous, right? But basically you kind of send them off and they kind of pass on and all this stuff. So kind of plays with the idea of mortality and, you know, characters and all that. Like it's an interesting concept. I have not played it, so I can't say much beyond that, but they're very well known for that's their most recent game and people are all like just orgasming over it. I know them from one of their first games because I'm basically a hipster goblin, so kind of how that works. Is a game called Jotun. Jotun is like a weird boss rush mix of action RPG gameplay like you see in Hades.
Is it like top down?
Yeah, it's kind of like an isometric top down.
Okay,
kind of like
I
Diablo
seen
and
some
stuff like
gameplay
that.
of it. Yeah.
But your character's so damn small because you're fighting gods. Like you're fighting all these like Norse gods.
Yeah.
So you're like this tiny little speck, and I think that's the thing that drives me up the wall. But I still play it. I actually still really enjoy it, and I think Thunder Lotus Games is a lot of their work has been good.
Yeah.
Like they also did another game called Sundered, which I heard was actually pretty good, but I haven't heard much beyond a small group of people, and I think it's because not many people know about Thunder Lotus until just recently. And I think it's a pretty solid studio, and I think that a lot more that's going to come from them is going to be very promising. I would keep an eye out on them because I'm still looking at whether or not I should get Spiritfarer. But for the most part, I only know him from Jotun, and it was a phenomenal game for as small as it was. I did get it on the cheap, but the only problem I had was I was so fucking small. Like, if they made a game that was just your feet fighting against an ant and you're controlling the ant character, that's basically how it felt.
Oh, okay.
Like it was a pain in the ass. But it was a fun game.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was short, but I found it.
I think another one I would like to say is Universe Sandbox by Giant Army. It was one of the first games I bought on a PC, and maybe eventually I'll get it on VR, but it's just a universe simulator. What I like about it is that it kind of scratches your curiosity itch. What if a bunch of Jupiters crashed into each other? What if you wanted to take away the sun? What if Earth left the solar system? So it's this.
The Earth just eats itself out of the solar system.
Well, you could do all kinds of like really stupid stuff with it, but sometimes you're just like crashing planets into each other until you get bored. But yeah, it's and you can watch it like just slowly make itself come to life. Like, okay, what if I put these planets here and then see how my solar system could last. There's like so many different ways you could do it, or you could do like universe exploring too, which is really really nice. So getting into some VR, oh my god, it'll be just the coolest thing ever. um, I think they have most of the universe charted in there too. You can make your own planets, you can make your own solar system. But yeah, I think it's just
Like,
it's
how do they make their own planets?
Well, you could like throw certain conditions into it. Yeah,
So it's like a weird pre-made box. You just kind of add the elements into it.
yeah, and then
Okay.
it'll generate that planet. It's really
That's pretty
cool.
That's pretty cool. All right. Well, I will say one of the other ones I wanted to at least list because I wanted to at least talk about like 3 of them that are really successful. I did not even know this game existed. I heard it was on Kickstarter back when I was like obsessed with Kickstarter, and I funded a lot of things I really shouldn't have funded, and spent a lot of what I shouldn't have. But you know what? I'm a goblin. I have money. That's what I do.
Invest what you're willing to lose.
I was willing to lose everything for stupid figures of characters that don't exist. That's my life. Anyway, I didn't know about it until Limited Run Games made a physical release of it on the Switch, and I just bought it because I'm trying to collect the limited edition, limited run print stuff from Limited Run Games. I bought a game called Blasphemous. It's from a company called The Game Kitchen. It's like a weird Metroidvania meets Dark Souls, and a weird like Abrahamic religion like influence with a really darker tone.
Yeah.
Like it's really out there, and they like took a lot of the elements that made like Dark Souls kind of very like sketch, like as far as their lore goes, like how dark things have gotten, and took a very bloody like twist to it all. Like
Yeah.
it's brutal. It's a pretty brutal game, and like just that game alone, like they made apparently another game previous to that, but it's a point and click adventure I've never heard of, even though it says it won a bunch of awards, but it's a point and click adventure. I probably just ignored it. But they like that game's amazing, and I think they're finishing up their last bit of DLC, and they're going to be releasing a complete edition version of it later.
Buy it again.
I'm probably going to. But for the most part, it's hard.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I had
it
a
is
chance to
straight
play the
apart.
demo. I had a chance to play the demo, and I'm like, I'll avoid this. Like, I love Dark Souls, and I know it's like heavily inspired by Dark Souls, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't like how the weapons hit. The weapons. Was it your hit boxes when you swing your weapon? Yeah. If they fix that, I'd be a lot more down to play it. But I don't know. It's not in my comfort zone. Right?
Like,
not
no,
yet.
I just want to just dodge roll for life.
I'll stick in my Dark Souls. It's a lot easier there. But speaking of Dark Souls,
Uh-oh.
Little Witch No Better by Puya Puya Games. So,
It's weeb stuff. I don't know.
So-
I'm just ragging.
so, I saw the demo and I was like, it's just a cute little game, right? So I played it and I was like, it's pretty good. I'll just pre-order it. It was like, I think it was like $10-$20. I don't know, whatever. And it was like really, I was like, it's generic, but it's just a third-person game. I'll wait for it to come out. And I had just to play the first boss, and the first like when the game finally came out, I should say. And I had a chance to play the first boss. Oh my god, he trounced me.
I remember, and not talking about an indie on this point, but I do remember the first time I played Demon Souls, and the first boss kicked my ass, and it's just a slug of shields, and it still kicked my ass. And
Yeah, I hated that.
I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Well,
So
thankfully,
I could feel that feeling, but I actually did it on a like more well-known game, even though it wasn't well known at the time. Like,
yeah,
like I had to actually explain it multiple times, and now like I just have to say Demon Souls because Dark Souls got it so popular, and I'm like, yeah, that I did that, I played that too, and then people were like, you just did it because I'm like, no, I bought it on the cheap because it went clearance, and that's basically how I got it. That's literally it. I played it. I'm like, I remember getting the achievement too. It was like achievement popped up, and I was like, yeah, that's what you call an achievement. Nothing like watching a fucking intro of a fighting game, Namco. Jackasses. Like, that's stupid. You have to watch the intro of Soul Calibur 3 or 4. One of the
Probably
two.
4.
And then you just watch the full intro, and it's like, congratulations, here's a sticker. I'm like,
Oh my god.
because you can't skip it. You don't get a reward for skipping the intro.
Yeah.
You had to watch the intro, and that was garbage. But yeah, no. But yeah, no. I remember there was another indie that tried to do that too. They're saying it's actually pretty popular. Hellpoint is doing like a weird like Doom themed Dark Souls. Haven't played it much myself, so I can't say too much on it.
Mm-hmm.
But some people are saying basically it's like Demon Souls controls and how hard it is, and you have to literally like pick up your spirit, and it's basically Dark Souls. It literally is Dark Souls with a Doom theme. That's basically what it is.
Oh, okay.
But I'll give it more of a try before I do anything else with that. But there's been, going back when I was saying I picked up like Blasphemous on Kickstarter. There's been ones that like succeeded in their Kickstarter campaign, and even I even funded it too much, but it still failed. But it was a game like, oh, I really wanted this game to like succeed, right? Not like hugely succeed, but I wanted it to succeed in general. Like, it was an interesting game, an interesting company, and the company tanked. So this is one of those, here's a possible potential indie that will never be, and one of them is this Dark Forge Games. These guys made a game called Necro. It was kind of like a top-down game where you like play the baddie. Basically, it's kind of like that stereotypical type, but you play like a weird necromancer, and you can unlock other ones later on into the game. But the main one, you learn how to make plagues and stuff like that, and you like harass an entire town, and then like once the city and the castle learns about what you're doing, they're gonna start trying to hunt you down, and you start building up that type of theme and trying to build up your necromancy book and stuff, and that's basically your levels and powers and stuff. So it's kind of like a weird Diablo meets I want to say Pikmin a little bit. Like,
okay.
It has a little, because you can control some henchmen and stuff like that too. So it has a little blend between the two, but had some like quirky humor, and the style was just pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it didn't work out very well. Like, the company was trying very hard to get the updates out there repeatedly and trying to sell, but the game was not selling after release because it was on Steam alone, and that was it. And like, it just got buried by just about everything else.
Yeah.
So they no matter what they were trying to do, they were just hitting wall after wall after wall after wall. So it was one of those things that was like very tragic to watch happen, especially if you put money into it and you don't really get much beyond that. But
Well, look at Owlboy. That's like an indie that's like just a true success because was it just one person?
One person.
That's freaking nuts, man.
Yeah, that's that, and like the majority of Forager too. Like, if you play Forager, like, he needed to hire some people at the end of his development to kind of push it over the finish line. But for the majority of the time, he built it himself. Both games absolutely like phenomenal success stories. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Owlboy's amazing. If anybody wants to play that, fucking do it. But yeah, no, it was one of those things. It was one of those successes I actually thought was pretty cool. Like, Owlboy was a pretty good one.
Okay. I guess another one would be Ultra Kill by New Blood Interactive. So I'll be honest, I really suck at this because it plays like Quake. I never touched Quake in my life before.
Oh,
so
I did. I
know everybody's shitting on me right now. But it's all keyboard. I'm gonna use a controller. Just deal with it, right? Or at least I want controller support for it. But basically, like, you.
How can you 360 no scope with a controller?
You just do, right? But basically, you're like this robot, and I think there's like a shit ton of humans and demons out in. I don't know the thing. It just looked really cool, I should say. But you pull things in, you blow shit up, and you launch things in the air and use your gun to combo things. It looks freaking metal as hell because you're just like zipping and shooting across the map, blowing things up, and just getting your combo kill. So it's basically like Devil May Cry with guns is what they basically called it. Yeah. Oh man, it's metal as hell. Hopefully I get the controls down, but as soon as I started playing it, I just like couldn't get that crazy down slide tab shift where you have to put 5 fingers and the weird claw. So I was
I
like,
have the
cool.
inherent claw because I used to play Counter-Strike for so much, so
Oh,
I know
okay.
exactly what you're talking about. I'm like, that's standard. Get used to it, scub.
So I'm a pleb.
PCMR, bro.
I'm a pleb. I'll stick with controllers. Hopefully they add controllers to it. If not, it's just sitting there in my library. So
Well, nice. No, that's pretty cool. There's another one I think we were talking about just before we turned on the mics. Something that's it. The Coffee Stain Studios.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it a little bit. When we weren't going to touch too much on it. We're going to touch more on it a little later. But for the most part, I wanted to at least kind of get it out there and tap it a little bit. Coffee Stain Studios is actually pretty good. That's another very popular one right now because of Deep Rock Galactic.
okay, yeah.
And we're going to touch on that a little bit more. I feel like we need to get into that a little bit more. But my favorite one on that was Sanctum. I loved Sanctum, the first-person shooter, down on the ground, tower defense stuff. Like, you don't see that very often.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not Castle Crashers. It's something else. There's another one that's like that I played a lot of. The name escapes me, but is what it is. But Sanctum was really good. So I would just touch that right there. But we're going to talk about that another time. But that's basically what I wanted to say about that.
Okay.
But there is a lot of indies out there. I think there's that collapsed or even struggling that I didn't think would happen and stuff too.
Dang, that's a good topic. Actually, we should do about like some of the indies that just didn't make it
Tragedy.
that we want to see make it.
My God, there's one out there too that's called there's a game out there called Bounty Battle.
Mm-hmm.
It has a character in there. It's supposed to be like a weird Smash Brothers, but with all indies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It has a character in there for a game that doesn't exist anymore.
Should we
because
say
it never developed. It was from Darby Monsters, and I funded that game.
It looked like
and-
such a good game too, though.
Yeah, it and the thing was, it was just nobody was buying into it because it was right around the time the Kickstarter was starting to crash for their
Overpromising. A
overpromising. A lot of
Yeah.
people overpromising. So like the trust in the Kickstarter type of world and stuff was just collapsing, and they're trying to get it in there.
Well, if it sounds
before
too
that-
good to be true, it's like it probably is.
And like think about it. But you also got to think like what's going to be within reason, what you expect out of this.
Yeah.
Knowing that,
Yeah.
you're not gonna. No one's all gonna be Keiji Inafune, and just promise the whole goddamn Mega Man universe world just repainted into multiple different things, and I expect people to buy into that.
Yeah.
No, none of us are anime fans on prom night. We're not buying into it. We're not gonna cry over it. And pizza explosions suck ass. Don't do it again.
Pizza explosion.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that? The pizza weird like explosions that they replaced it on Mighty Number 9?
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
I remember.
they used to have like these weird fuzzy like explosions that kind of were meh. They weren't that bad, but then they did these like weird flat panel ones that kind of like were circular, so it had to give it more depth. But they just looked like giant pepperoni pizzas just coming
jeez.
at you. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And that was another one of those like failed Kickstarters. Don't fucking touch it.
Yeah.
But it was one of those that got so much money. It doesn't matter if they release it or not. It's better than nothing.
Well, that wasn't Inafune, to be fair. it was the translator kind of like filling in for it.
Yeah.
Game Explain talked about it.
Yeah, no, it's still gonna go down in history, regardless of who said what.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those cheesy ones. But yeah, no, they were making a game called Blubberbusters. Going all the way back to what I was just saying. The game called Blubberbusters had a character named Rudy that's in this bounty battle game, and Blubberbusters does not exist.
No, jeez.
And like I've talked to the company, and they're like, "Well, we're gonna wait until see if somebody want to buy up our stuff or find a way to fully fund it." But as of right now, they're not working on it. They gotta find other things to do. I'm like, damn. Maybe I should draw more porn and fund you guys. Like, I'm just saying. Maybe a couple more pairs of tits would probably have helped you slowly fund that. But that's just me.
They do look a lot like Last of Us characters, so roll 34 of that. Oh my god.
No. Blubberbusters? No, they don't look like Last of Us characters.
Well, at least that's what I kind of remember.
No.
They're just like in suits like that.
No. They had spacesuits and stuff.
No, okay.
Like very cartoony style and stuff. And then one of the characters was like this weird half zombie demon character that I'm surprised R34 didn't hit that thing like a train wreck.
No, okay.
But yeah, that was another one. But we'll probably I feel like there's going to be a lot more talking about dying indies. But I think we should probably talk about something like games that you can still get a hold of indies that don't exist anymore. Like
Stop Drop Retro. Where are you, buddy? We need you. Like, I love his channel because he does all these breakdowns of fake Kickstarters that just kind of failed, but he does like a really in-depth analysis on everything. And the Smash Z was like the one thing that was like this. It was this ultimate Switch killer that played Steam, and he just did all the detective work on what it really is, and he's like, no, they don't have a working demo, no, they're just going to keep taking your money. And it was really interesting because he just broke everything down, and he's like, this is from this company, they sold out, so this company bought them and they're just laundering money. And it's hilarious. But Stop Drop Retro, you got to come back, we need you, buddy.
We need more people that kind of like call out this stuff, to be honest. But
yeah.
There is a lot of stuff like I think there's a lot more people more willing to like crap on things because we're gonna do it. I mean, we already did it on Sony, and Nintendo and Microsoft will be next. I promise you. they're not without sin too. And like a lot of people are very like they love feeding off that negativity. Like, oh my god, it validates what I think and stuff. The problem is, because of that, there's not as many people willing to say, look, there's some games out there that are good. They're not the best out there, but there's some good stuff out there, and you need to play that stuff. And I feel like stuff like what we're talking about kind of helps with that. But the thing is, like, it is good that there is people calling people out for crap like that. And I honestly think the stuff that, like, Stop Drop Retro did that on Kickstarter, and the fact that a routine of, like, social justice and just weird cultural nonsense that was on it kind of helped feed into that. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what actually made people lose a lot of trust in a lot of crowdfunding projects. And then when Kickstarter started doing tighter restrictions of who gets to actually be on it based off of like identitarian politics and stuff, I think really just kind of shot them in the foot. So they can just sink for all I care for the most part. It sucks for all the projects that are on it that want to push forward. It does. There is a lot, like, I understand there's some places that only Kickstarter is available for them. Mm-hmm. There's stuff like Indiegogo, Subscribestar, and stuff like that, if you want to try to swing that way. And, you know, go from there. But it's just not going to happen. And there's some people out there that are solely developing. There's actually a gentleman named Cadet was making this 3D platformer that I was super excited about, and he only has a Patreon. That's all he has, because he was solo developing this character, and he didn't have a name for it. It's just Otter with this little life vest thing that he tosses around as a weapon, and he kind of uses it with some physics and stuff, and it looked phenomenal. He only had like a little mini like playable featured demo of just an isolated area, and that was it. And then he stopped. And he made a declaration that said, well, I'm not taking more money because I plan on, like, I have an actual legitimate job. But for the life of me, I think that dude would do pretty phenomenally on his own too, because he has some pretty good talent.
Yeah.
So if he ever sees this video, like, I'm just letting that dude know that Cadet, wherever your furry ass is, Like, don't let that game go. Like, that game looked fucking awesome. Like, again, maybe I should have drawn more porn. Actually, but yeah, no, we're not going there. But yeah, no, that was the good handful of indies. I think a lot of people should be noticing about. I think a lot of the ones I did list, I think a lot of people are familiar with right now,
Yeah.
especially Supergiant Games. But
Yeah.
it is one of the first ones that come to mind because it was one of those games that one of those companies that had games that were really good that not many people talked about. Like
Yeah.
a lot of hipsters did. Like, they're like, oh, you don't know about Bastion. Like, no, it was a good game. Like, y'all, I don't care if they're famous now. I'm actually kind of excited because that means there could be a Bastion 2 eventually. And
Yeah.
I'm entirely down for that. The success of Supergiant Games means as long as they don't get bought out by anything stupid.
Oh,
Like,
God.
let's just don't take money, guy. Don't take money from Winnie the Pooh. Don't take money from EA. Don't take
sell your-
any
don't
money
sell your
from
soul.
Activision. Just do what you guys gotta do. I believe in you. Trust in the Hades that believes in you. But yeah, no.
Well, Indies where it's at though, because you're not leashed to investors. So When I tell you to do
there's upwards and downfalls to that. Upsides and downsides on that, but one of them is like you get a bigger budget because if you're like, oh, I have a unique idea for an MMO like Crowfall, which I'm going to talk about eventually too. You need the budget.
yeah,
You need a huge budget, and some people don't want to crowdfund because crowdfunding you make a lot of empty promises. You might not be able to like even defend anymore.
Yeah.
Some of them might be able to because they have a reasonable reasonable scope what's going to be, but there's always weird things that can happen throughout the development process. And that's the whole reason why some of the stretch goals for Shovel Knight and Yacht Club were not met at the same time because as they were building it, they're like, we might as well just build new expansions to this game. And that's what they did. They made new free expansions for it, which is bigger than what they promised. But at the same time, it took them years to do it.
yeah,
You know, so there's trades off, and there's sometimes it might not even be that. It might even be like, well, we promised this type of character to come in, but there's no way we're going to be able to get this guy animated and appropriately working in the amount of time we thought we were going to have him in.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other things. Like there's one developer I recalled that said that their whole basement flooded and like of the studio that they were in, and they had to move immediately.
yeah. Oh,
So I
jeez.
mean, there's stuff like that, and then that could eat that time could eat money, and that money could like eventually
that
means
was that Hello Games? I remember the guys who did what was that one space game that got No Man's Sky.
no that I don't know what happened with Hello Games. My reference is actually I think it was to the developers for Strength of the Sword, which is this like boss rush style like arena fighter type game. Like it looks cool. They only have a demo out floating around out there, but they had some like personal issues that multiple of them were trying to get that just slowed them down.
Okay.
And then I think one of them got severely ill, and then of course COVID happened, and that throws a wrench in everybody who's working right now.
Man, that also reminds me about the guy who lost his marriage because he was working on his game. Like he's running out of funds. He had to quit his job so he could keep working on this game because he got a decent funding for it, and he just wanted to commit to it. And man, you just see his life go to ruins because he wanted to finish it. I don't know if he finished it or not, and I can't remember what game it was, but it was just this over-promising and of like biting off more you could chew. It's like you can't offer the world, guys. Like,
Well, and the thing is, like the small budget, the small little mechanics that some people do in like their game jams and stuff. People don't understand the gravity of what, like, oh, it's a game jam. They were able to make this game function in a day, and that's what a game jam is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't understand the gravity of making a big scope game.
yeah,
Like, that's why Team Cherry had to delay their game a couple of times too, because even though it was based off of a game jam game, they had 4 years to try to get the one other game out, and it was just hard to do.
yeah.
And they're the developers of Hollow Knight, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
So that's I saw you like looking at me like, this is getting off script, and we've been off script for the last 20 minutes, so that's just how it's gonna be. But I honestly think like stuff like that, they don't understand like the gravity of some of the stuff that happens. Like some of the ideas, like when I did a lot of development, one of the things that I had problems with for the life of me, and it was just a small, like it was pre-college type development studio, like classes and stuff, right? And one of the hardest things was trying to get somebody on moving platforms and stay in the position on the moving platforms for God knows what reason. And we managed to get that to work, but the problem was when we managed to get that to work, as soon as you get on the edge where the two platforms meet and you could just shift over to the other side, it broke the platform for some reason. Like the platform wouldn't work. Like you couldn't jump onto it solidly anymore and all that. And we wouldn't know why.
Yeah.
And like stuff like that, it took us an extra week to get that done to figure out what all our problems were.
Yeah, coding's a nightmare.
So understanding like it could be a simple thing like that.
Yeah.
That could just be an absolute thorny nightmare for somebody, and it could just slow the whole thing down.
Yeah, well, that also goes to explain about the weird when people boundary break and they say, "Oh, there's a weird head under this map for some reason," and it's because if they take it out, the game just doesn't work, and then they have to put it back in.
Yeah, and like certain mechanics like that. World of Warcraft, one of their first raids had a character that targeted invisible bunnies to make the beeline to them, and if you removed the bunny, the whole raid would just break. So you couldn't play it. It just break.
Yeah.
Like Onyxia would just up and fuck off. It just disappear. Like done. I'm not fighting y'all. Like once you hit that phase, you're done. So it was horrible. So has
that ever happened in the middle of a raid where?
There has, but there's not in a way where like it ruins the whole raid. You can literally reset an instance of that fight, because if the raid doesn't continue on and like it breaks, people can leave that area and then come back in and then just reset the whole instance, and that's basically it. That's been that way for everything since somebody was able to take coding and an emulator for the MMO and just like remove the rabbits to see what would happen, and she just vanishes. She just poofs. It was gone.
Yeah.
Like she will start like monologuing, and halfway through the monologue she's just gone. And you're like, oh, that's awkward. So, but it's stuff like that, like just small things that can just break a whole thing. And like, even though it was an older raid, so they had to use clever mechanics. So it wasn't like it was, they didn't intend to have the invisible rabbits. It just shows you that removing those invisible rabbits, even if you plan on like reintroducing some like the mechanics in a more natural way, it could break the whole thing.
Yep.
So it's one of those type of situations, and some of the people who think these Kickstarters, and I think even the developers themselves that do these Kickstarters, are still at fault. I'm not trying to excuse them. They're still at fault because they make these big promises they can't keep up because they don't realize what's gonna be up ahead.
Bite off more than you could chew, don't end up biting off more than you could chew.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and it's one of those things that like, but the thing is they don't have a realistic grasp on it yet. They're like, oh, well, I can easily make from A to B easily within 6 months, but I could add this stuff, and that shouldn't be that much of a problem. Till you realize you gotta retrofit some of the stuff to make it work with that extra character or mechanic or whatever, because you're gonna be like, oh, I didn't think that one through as I was developing this bit. So it gets harder to do. But some people who are familiar with it will be able to like kind of know how to approach it a little bit better. But when you're like these new young guns and stuff like that, they got this pie in the sky idea, and it's not even just video games. Like some people will do that for like, oh, I'm gonna make a bakery for dogs, but then they realize like they buy all this stuff and they even get funded for it sometimes, and they just can't make it work because for most people who make small businesses, I kind of expect the first 2 years to be you just wasting money.
Yeah.
Like,
You'll learn a lot, though.
You
You'll
will,
learn a lot.
and then you will turn around and find a way to turn that into a profit, and that's where a lot of businesses go. Once you're done with the 5-year mark, it's a lot smoother sailing unless something really tragic happens.
Yeah.
As long as everything retains and maintains your situation, after the 5-year mark, you should be smooth sailing. That's assuming everything goes as planned from there on. But yeah, no, that's kind of how indies work. And going off the script and going on a tangent because I feel like I needed to say some stuff is just how that works.
We can save this for the next one, I guess. But
Oh, well,
I think it'll be interesting.
We'll talk more about that in like failed Kickstarters and stuff like that. Yeah, on another channel, on another episode.
Okay.
Because that one could be a doozy. Whew, Lord, that one's gonna be.
I miss iDubbbz too. iDubbbz when he used to do Kickstarter crap.
Oh, well, I'm not sure if we get enough people back in that situation. Like we kind of actually want to see somebody digging. I will dig through the muck of Kickstarter and report how garbage some of that stuff is. Like I will
Alright.
do what I can, and I will do what's needed to get that done.
Yeah. Okay.
But from there on, right now, I would like to thank you all for listening to our crazy little rants and going off script and all that. If you like what you are listening to, feel free to hit subscribe and go ahead and click the like button as well. And we'll see you guys on the other side.